May the road rise with you. May the road rise with you. Hey, how are you? Chris Quinlan here. Melbourne Musos, Facechook live. Let me get my plugs in. Oh, there we go. Hey, oh. Buzz, click, buzz. Click! How are you all? Hey. Welcome to Friday Facechook Live. Okay. Ooh. Now, I'd like to say a couple of thank yous to everyone. Today is Oz Band T-shirt day, and I've got my Moonshifter T-shirt on. Andy and all the boys of Moonshifter. It's a little bit on the sad side. They announced that they're taking a bit of a break today. So, dedicating this show to you boys. It's a funny old week. It's been a tough week for Straya, in the sense that it's Remembrance Day on Monday, and we've had a pretty tough week with fires and all sorts of shite. So, let's talk about drums and what and how they can help. Okay, so there you go. Now I'd like to thank a few people here. Andy, the boys in Moonshifter, Markus and Matt Morgan, everybody who's asked questions. Andrew, I'm sure you're watching and all that. Howdy to you too, and everybody who's asked questions, you know, that kind of thing. All that sort of biz. Now, I'm going to turn off the ambience. And what goes on is, Andy, you've got first dip and double dip, my dear mate, Moonshifter mate, and all that sort of stuff. And he's asked about time signatures. And also, he's got a band that he loves dearly called Sabbath, not to be confused with Black Sabbath. And what it is he asked me the other night about how the hell do they do that? That kind of thing, you know. Very heavy and all that sort of bit. And what goes on is, first of all, he asked me about the rhythm. And the rhythm was in, I would have called it 12/8, but Andy wanted to say, is it 6/8? Well, that's why we're talking about time signatures. What happens with 6/8? It's your typical marching rhythm, okay? Now let me quickly go over time signatures. You've got two types of time signatures. You've got simple time and compound time. Simple time is any beat or any time signature divisible by 2. So you can have simple duple time, which is 2/4. That's another marching beat. And there you go. And then you can have simple triple time, which is 3/4. Some people call 3/4 time an odd time signature. Bullshit! What happens is it's simple triple. Just because 3 is an odd number doesn't mean it's an odd time. And there you go. I was a bit rough there. I did it on the show about a month and a half ago, much more well-mannered. And that's what goes on. And then you have simple quadruple time, which is 4/4, right? Man. So on it goes, you see. So that's what happens there. And then with compound time, it's divisible by 3. That's where 6/8 comes in, because you've got compound duple. It's based on 3s, 2 3s, okay? Compound triple time is 9/8, 3 3s. I don't get into arguments about 9/8 being an odd time, because sometimes it depends on the subdivision. When you get things like river dance and all that, 9/8 is a slip jig. It feels like it's a waltz in triplets. Okay, so 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1, the 2, the 3 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 1, the 2, the 3. But with Riverdance, they did a beautiful song that was subdivided in 5 and 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. So bump, 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 bump. Lilting. Hippopotamus one, hippopotamus one, hippopotamus one, hippopotamus one. Lovely. Lord of the Dance stuff, Mr. Flatley. And there you go. And then you have compound quadruple time. I woke up this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's what goes on. And that's compound quadruple, you see. Now, when you want an odd time signature, a true definition of odd time is any time signature that is essentially non-divisible. So it's a combination of simple and compound, say 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. Hippopotamus is 2 and 3. Hippopotamus, right? Hippopotamus, 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 hippopotamus. Of course I'm going to do Gina. Gina Lollabridge, 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 Gina Lollabridge. Two, 2, and 3, you see? And that's what goes on. They're non-divisible numbers and all that sort of stuff. So there you go. So that's a quick rundown of the time signature side of things, Andy. But you also wanted to know about overlaying beats with Sabbath and all that. So what happens is, how does he keep that beat going? Well, Steve Gadd and Sabbath, on the face of it, wouldn't have much in common, right? But what started to happen, the story goes, and I heard this from Billy Cobham as well, which is wonderful. He's one of my favourite drummers of all time, Billy Cobham, and I met my hero, and we hung out. It was fantastic back a long time ago, 20 years ago. Anyway, so what it was one of those things where when drum machines started to come in, okay, in the late 70s into the 80s, there was a lot of producers out there that wanted it exactly like the drum machine, okay. And it's a funny thing because the big drum machine at the time was the Lynn drum machine, and guess who sampled the sounds? Billy Cobham. There you go. He was one of the, they sampled his stuff. He was like numero uno in the day. But Steve Gadd actually got called in, and basically he was doing this kind of groove. I've got to find out what song it actually was. I just remember that it was a 16th note rock beat. But the producer was actually saying, no, we actually want to have the hi-hat all the way through. Now, let me explain this. When you put your snare drum on the backbeat, 1 ear, 2 ear, 3 ear, 4, you're taking it away from the hi-hat. So what happens is you get 1 ear, 2 ear, 3 ear, 4 ear, 1 ear, 2 ear, 3 ear, 4 ear. It becomes, if I play my knee, 1 ear, 2 ear, 1 ear, 2 ear, 1 ear, 2 ear, 1 ear. And the producer was saying, no, I don't want that, Stevie boy. I don't know so if he said it like that, but anyway. So what happened is, Steve Gadd scratched his head and said, I know what to do. He flammed him. Now, I'll play my knee again. Here's before. Here's after. Fixed. Magic. There you go. Now, Andy, what does Steve Gadd have to do with Sabbath? Okay. Now, you gave me a song called Wildfire. And to me, it was basically the little thing that I wrote for you on my notepad and sent it to you was essentially the feeling of dun, dun, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, bum. So if I was to think of it, say in 12/8, it's 2 bars of 12/8, or if you like 4 bars of 6/8 if you wanted to. There's the hemiola in there, which I've explained in previous episodes, only last week or the week before, I think. But if I was to count them as triplets, because if I count to 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that, it's, try and get 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into. What happens is you get this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a hemiola. 1 and 2 and a 3, 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So it'd be like bang the dang. Oh, was it? But what was going on was there was this constant, always happening. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a tricky business. What did he do? He flammed them. Okay, so you can use a flam accent. A flam accent is essentially a triplet flammed. You can actually say the name. Flam accent, flam accent, flam accent, flam accent. And this is the connection between them and Steve Gadd. So what happens is you get 1 and a 2 and a, but what you do is you flam 1 and a 2 and a. Okay, you can think of it like that. You can think of it in 6/8 because it is a marching rudiment. But then what you do is you move each side. So it'll be. So it's still a flam accent, you see. Now, Keith Moon, he had a little trick where he did that. He loved his triplets and sextuplets. You just listen to the recording of My Generation, the original, and you're hearing sextuplets everywhere. Like. And then he smashed everything up. Bloody hell. Anyway, what happens is that when you're dealing with that, one of the things that you can hear, I hear it on Young Man Blues off of Live at Leeds and things like that, the Who Live at Leeds, in the sense that he did some beautiful things. He did triplets, but he'd crash the cymbals, right? But sometimes just not hit the bass drum. Whether it was sloppy technique, some of you might be thinking, or something like that, or he was on the piss again, whatever. But the thing was, he actually, instead of just constant, he had this. Now, if I took that to Sabbath, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, bass drum. What happened if I flammed them? I'll do it slowly. Get it? Got it? Good. That's what goes on there. So Andy, that's what that is. Did I cover everything, mate? I hope I did. There you go. Bass player for Moonshifter, everybody. Brilliant. Brilliant, mate. All that sort of stuff. Oz T-shirt day. Moonshifter split up today. Bit sad. And I wasn't happy because I sort of knew and I was pleading with them to stay together because they're a great bloody band. Great Oz band. Check them out and all that. Put the weight of the internerds onto the Moonshifter site and say, keep on going, you pack of beautiful bastards. There you go. There you go. Now, Andy, you also asked me another thing, thoughts on quantization. Okay. These are my thoughts on quantization. What it is a metronome's great. You know, be metronomic. But when you're actually listening to grooves and stuff, I well remember Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull actually talking about how the different drummers that have worked for Tull over the years and how they were getting measured in the studio, you know, sort of thing. Like Barry Barlow was like one of my favourite drummers of all time. I've talked about him in the past quite a bit. In the glory days of Tull, Through Thick as a Brick, Passion Play, Songs from the Wood. I was talking about Velvet Green off Songs from the Wood just yesterday about to a young student who was just looking like that. Who the hell is he? Jethro, all that sort of stuff. It wasn't a he, it's a them, and all that. And I was just talking about melodic, the genius of his melodic drumming and all that. And Ian Anderson was talking about, not quantization, but he was talking about how Don Perry, brilliant drummer for so long with Tull, and how he was different to, Barrymore Barlow, and how Clive Bunker, their first drummer, was different again. But they were all brilliant, and they were all on time and in time and everything else time. They didn't need to be quantized. And the dude on YouTube quantized John Bonham, and sounded like shit, that kind of thing. And I've had people here saying, "Oh, just play, I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to take it to a studio and quantize it." And I felt like, oh, bloody hell, I'm getting robotized again, sort of thing. And there you go. So, and then we can put on any drum kit we want. I'm going, you're rehearsing with Doris here. I mean, talking about Marcus, you were actually talking about favourite drum sounds. Well, oh no, we'll get the Pearl. We'll dial up the Pearl export sound for you. Ah, thanks. No worries. There you go. So there's all that. So anyway, I'll move right along. It is a family-friendly show after all. I was just scratching my nose there, people. So what it is that's my thoughts on quantization. I mean, I've delivered fill-ins. Like here, I'll give you 6 fill-ins, and I did it all with the metronome and that kind of thing. And then I sat back on the couch with a nice little wine, and I watched the guys pull my fill-ins apart, not quantize, but just, that fill will fit the first verse, that fill will fit the third verse, and that's the lay of the land. But I remember playing with bands like Beltane and all that, and we went in the studio, and you just went, go, go. And we went, and that was our single on Triple R in the day. Well, that's a long time ago now. It was a couple of decades ago. But what I'm getting at is that, yes, but quantization is a fact of life almost now. So I'm having a bit of an old bloke whinge about it, but the thing about it, it's there, and you've got to do things. It's like, okay, there you go. Now, I'll move on. Andy, I hope I've answered all your questions, hey? I've given you the lion's share of tonight's show for obvious reasons, mate. There you go. All right? So there you go. I'll move on. Marcus. Andy beat you to the double dirty dipping, mate. There you go. Favourite drum sound and why? Okay. I'll tell you why. I had to give it a bit of thought. Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. Their big-ass bass drum, their big-ass concert bass drum that I first heard when they were doing Shostakovich's 11th Symphony in 2006, where it was coordinated all around the world to do Shostakovich, Dmitri Shostakovich, because it was the centenary of his birth, and it was just, I was at the concert hall and I went, what just happened? And that's the closest I can get to it. I had a bass drum here before Christmas, but I lightened Doris up, I put Doris on Jenny Craig for a while. And Star, I said the other day, the first, I've become, after all these years of always starting how to hold the sticks and single stroke roll, double stroke roll, single paradiddle for a first lesson, that kind of thing. I've done it all wrong, right? The first thing you've got to tell any student or teach them is boom tish. It happened the other day on one of those things. So Star, if you're there, there you are. All right. So what it is this is the sound. I'm trying to play Doris Doris's bass drum and the low floor tom at the same time to try and even get within a mile of the sound I heard that night with the chimes coming in. And let me tell you about Shostakovich's 11th Symphony. It's dedicated to 1905. Now, we're talking Russia, all right? And I'm going to be apolitical with this, and what it is, I'll just tell you the story. We all know, if we've studied history, that there was the big takeover by Lenin and the Bolsheviks in 1917, right? And then bang, whatever. But there was one before that in 1905. And what happened in 1905, that one failed. And what happened with that is that Tsar Nicholas got the soldiers to turn around and shoot their own people, right? So there's stories of brothers shooting cousins and stuff like that. It was the failed one. And what happens when the big bass drum came in with that chime? That was after the big bat, okay? That was the aftermath. Everything was just silent. You have to hear this symphony. You have to hear it. It's one of the most incredible things. And the MSO with the sound did it justice. They're a little bit rough because I've got 3 copies of the bloody thing, okay? And, like for good notes and all that sort of stuff, the German orchestra that I've got, the FDR, something like that, they were tight and all that, but they didn't have that bass drum. They didn't have this. The bell tolls for thee, that kind of thing. And what happened with that is that's the failed one. You need to remember that Tsar Nicholas was the person who sent his soldiers into World War I to fight the Germans. And they all had a gun, but they weren't sent bullets. It was called Blood on the Snow, if you want to check it out, okay? He just charged, no bullets, bayonets, just run, mowed down, all that sort of stuff. That's why 1917 happened. And when 1917 happened and all that, all the German troops, because Russia pulled out of World War I, all the German troops went back over to the Western Front, into the trenches, you see. And they nearly bloody won, that kind of thing. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because you're a sneaky bastard sometimes, because I think that's what you're after. Because we had November 11th on Monday. And that's why we remember them. Fancy sending your own men out without any bloody bullets, eh? How's that for a government? Anyway, so that's what happens there. And the thing about that is that epitomised, that sound was just one of the most amazing things I heard in the concert hall, the Melbourne Concert Hall with the MSO. You want to go check it out. They still got it. I don't know if they're going to play Shostakovich number 11 anytime soon, and I'm not sure if Mozart wrote heavy stuff like that. I consider Shostakovich and Stravinsky a little bit like the Black Sabbath and the Slipknot of classical music. They were heavy Russian bastards. Boom! Rite of Spring. Oh man, what a piece of music that is by Stravinsky. God help me. Anyway, that's what that is. So there you go. So Marcus, I hope that helps you with that. My other favourite sound is a beer keg being hit by a baseball bat at the moment. There you go, Solway Firth and bands, you know who I'm talking about there. I've just said them. And there you go. So Marcus, that's what that is. Okay, so whatever. So there you have it. Now, I'm already at 25 past 6, God help us all. Now I'm going to have this up probably tomorrow and for a show coming up on Channel 31 and all that. But I've got to address a couple of things because we are in Straya. I use a lot of triggers. Marcus, you've asked me about favourite sounds. work out sometimes is how to deal with shit. I started off tonight's show saying one of the most beautiful of Irish blessings, because yes, I remember my brothers and my father on Monday. It's always a hard time on the 11th of November. Because there's so many people that gave so much, you know, and they're doing it right now as we speak. I'm just being a drummer. What can I do behind a drum kit? So I started the show with May the Road Rise With You. First time most people hear that blessing is through John Lydon. Anger is an energy. And that's for Matt Morgan, because when I did the Ginger Baker special, I actually didn't know that he was the drummer for it. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for everything. Got to get in there, you know. I'm going to wrap the show up now, but not before I do this. I have a friend who's a firefighter, and he sent me this today. I'm going to finish off. I'm going to read it for you, but not before I dedicate this show to Moonshifter. All the bands playing in Australia in what are burnt earth conditions sometimes with gigs and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it can be a bit heavy, but you don't let it get you down. You fight, you know, and you remember. So I'm going to give this a crack. This is a friend of mine, right? We actually share the same teacher, Harold Ripper, and shared him, you know, sort of R.I.P. Harold, and all that. So that's how we know each other and where we go back, and just loving music together, you know, fellow drummer, same teacher. I'm a music teacher, he's a firefighter. So here we go. The fires and the firefighters. I wish my mind could forget what my eyes have seen. For 32 years, I've made fire rescue my profession. Each year around this time, I've watched the bush burn with terrible ferocity, ignited by Mother Nature or the skillful hands of an arsonist. I've seen and felt what an uncontrolled naked flame will do to the human body. And each year around this time, I shudder and shy away from those memories. Empty rhetoric and epitaphs feature strongly this year. Thoughts and prayers are sent with absolute sincerity and total lack of commitment. Political parties are blamed for the carnage. The firefighters' union is blamed for the carnage. Climate change is blamed for the carnage. Social media stalwarts vigorously blame each other. The only stakeholders who have no say are the firefighters. They have no say because they have no time, no interest, and no strength left. They're drained. They want to get the job done and go home. This feeling pervades professional and volunteer alike. It does not pervade the ones who stay behind and presume to speak on their behalf. So when we come back, don't ask what it was like, for we won't be able to put it into words adequate enough to describe it. Just give an understanding nod and say, "Tell me when you're ready." It goes a lot further than thoughts and prayers.